Hello, this is Vincent, and welcome to Dogma Discussions. This channel is devoted to discussing all kinds of dogma. Started out talking about religious dogma, and then other dogmas have come to the fore since then, so I'm open to discussing any of them. Please hit the like button and add a comment. That helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, allows other people to be able to find the material. And what I do is I tell a story from my own life or experience. And then if you find it helpful, share it with other people. So, here we go. The one I'm bringing you now is titled The Dogma of Male Virtue. I recently watched a program about a Christian purity cult, whose members consider virginity a virtue. And what's a virtue? Behavior that exhibits high moral standards. One member, a 40-year-old male virgin, went too far, though, by misidentifying pagan Roman virtus, spelled virtus, as connoting the same idea of sexual morality as his group's definition of virtue. Certainly, the English term virtue originates from the Roman virtus. But does that mean that the definitions of both words are the same? That's an interesting idea to examine. In the early days of the Roman state, virtus specifically referred to courage in battle. Since the root of the word is vir, spelled vir, which means man in Latin, Roman virtus was rarely applied to women. Think about the word virility, another outgrowth from the original vir, which refers to a man's physical strength, energy, and sexual potency. That's more in line with Roman virtus than Christian virtue. Over the 1,000 years that Rome was in existence, the word virtus did take on many meanings. Yet the traditional, classical, masculine qualities of Roman virtue can be codified in the following: excellence, courage, character, and value. The question becomes, then, how the Roman definition of virtue fits with the idea of Christian morality. We'll consider each of the Roman virtues along with ancient people who illustrate that quality, and then compare them to the Christian idea of sexual purity. Excellence is a term ubiquitous in our society, used to indicate that a person stands out in some way. It's often coupled with the concepts of drive, ambition, or strategy, implying that you aim to excel at some task. When I think about Roman excellence, Julius Caesar, the conqueror of Gaul, springs to mind. At the Battle of Alesia, he faced his toughest challenge, the great Gallic general Vercingetorix. The Gallic leader was holed up in a hill fort, from where he constantly assailed Caesar's men. The Roman general had to quickly plan, and thus had 2 walls constructed, the first 11 miles around the hill fort, in order to besiege the Gauls. The second, 14 miles, trapping Caesar's men in between both walls in order to protect their backs. All this and more was accomplished in a few weeks, and as a result, Caesar was victorious, even though the battle could have easily gone the other way. So, how does the concept of Christian purity match up to Caesar's virtuous excellence? Isn't virginity a physical condition in which you're either one or not? In Rome, excellence had the sense of doing, accomplishing, striving to be your best, versus virginity, which is the act of not doing. Next, courage, which involves both mental fortitude and self-control. Consider Publius Horatius Cocles, an officer in the early Roman Republic who defended one of Rome's bridges against an advancing Etruscan army. After ordering his men to destroy the bridge, he stayed on it and fought off the enemy until the last moment when, as the bridge collapsed, he dove into the Tiber River in heavy, full armor, swimming to shore. By remaining and fighting at great personal risk, he saved the city. Horatius demonstrated true courage, suffering several wounds and facing certain death. A Christian virgin might be considered courageous by maintaining his or her purity in the face of an intimate partner's pressure. Yet, is that similar to Horatius's courage? I'll let you decide. Regarding self-control, Horatius chose to remain and fight when most of his men ran away out of fear. I suspect he wasn't immune to the temptation of flight, but remained regardless. Yet doesn't remaining a virgin also take self-control? Yes, but is it the same type? Like Horatius, I once faced an aggressive opponent and survived. But could my self-control be called courageous? When I was young, one Friday, my girlfriend and I rush out of town to a small community for a romantic getaway. Both being virgins, this trip is to be the perfect moment for fulfilling our carnal desires. The little burg is idyllic with small shops and restaurants and beautiful scenery. We spend the day sauntering around, eating, shopping, laughing. And not long after arriving back at the hotel, we passionately intertwine on the bed, clothes flying in all directions. Let me take you to that moment. Vincent, she says breathlessly, take me. As if I need any encouragement. The proverbial devil on my shoulder prods. Do it! What are you waiting for? Yet the angel on the other reminds me, wait, Vincent, where's the condom? Ah, shit. Breathing heavily, I pull away and say, I have no condoms. Have you started contraception? No, she replies, pulling my face back to hers. But it'll be fine. It'll only be one time. We kiss with reckless abandon, the devil urging me on. Yes, yes, go for it, good boy. Yet, thankfully, that proverbial angel stopped me just in time. And truthfully, it took a lot of self-control. Yet was facing Cupid's arrows, the thousands that the little cherub was flinging into my body, was that as difficult as Horatius facing real weaponry? Be serious. And what about character? In Roman terms, it involves duty, honor, and ethics. I give you Cincinnatus, a senator and farmer in the early days of Rome. During times of crisis, Rome had a provision to appoint a dictator, someone who would have absolute authority for no longer than 6 months to resolve the issue. Such a situation arose, and Cincinnatus was called upon to take the role. And did he? Yes, and being successful within 2 weeks, he gave back power to the state and returned to his plow, even though he could have held on to it for 5.5 more months. To a Roman, his actions showed duty, honor, and ethics. How? He did his duty by saving the state. Moreover, he accomplished something that raised his status, which was the Roman idea of honor, as in collecting honors. Okay, you say. Duty and honor are different for ancient Romans, but surely ethics has a moral component, doesn't it? No, not in the Christian sense. Roman ethics were based in the Mos Maiorum, a collection of traditional behavioral expectations developed over generations, which imbued both public and private aspects of a male's life. It's the idea of living up to your obligations, your responsibilities regarding family, career, society, that you're dependable, trustworthy. Cincinnatus was definitely those things. On the other hand, Christian duty revolves around loving and serving God and others. It's a nice sentiment, albeit, in my experience, a bit unrealistic as a general rule. Nevertheless, regarding virginity, one could argue that staying sexually pure is being dutiful to God, honoring Him, and being ethical. So, Christians show character through love for God. Romans, through accomplishments for the state and family. The final traditional Roman virtue is value, which is your reputation. On first glance, this one appears closest to the idea of sexual purity. Well, let's see. For pagan Rome, value was defined by two terms, fama and gloria, roughly translated as fame and glory. Fama was public opinion about you, which could be good or bad. Honestly, in classical texts, it was more often bad, like a rumor that spreads about you. So a good Roman would try to avoid fama in that sense and build gloria, which was the pursuit of eternal remembrance for the benefits a person had won for the state. A good example of this virtue is a Roman general who won the nickname Torquatus. Nicknames were earned in ancient Rome for a specific accomplishment. In this case, for defeating a Gaul, who wore a torque around his neck. Thus, the defeater of the torqued Gaul earned the name Torquatus. It's a fun David and Goliath story in which the Roman, being much shorter and smaller than his opponent, takes the role of David and wins against all odds. For this, he gains great glory and even some good fame, because the news spread quickly, like a rumor. Conversely, the Gospel of Matthew sums up the idea of fame and glory in one verse. Let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and glorify your heavenly Father. And is virginity a good work? Is abstinence an accomplishment? Perhaps in Christian circles, but not in comparison to Roman virtue. By this time you may be thinking, okay, Vincent, you've made your point. The comparison between Christian sexual morality and Roman virtue is ridiculous. But so what? Well, we live in a time in which we are constantly told that words matter, that history matters. Yet, I find that often those who say such things twist both language and history to their own purposes. Words and history do matter. We can learn from both if we're willing to open our eyes and ears, close our mouths, and actually educate ourselves. How? By listening to opposing points of view and analyzing the different perspectives objectively. Thus, the flaws in people's statements become apparent, like the one which prompted this episode. Thank you for listening. That's my story for this Dogma Discussions. I appreciate your time. Please leave me a comment and hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and share the video. Until next time, this is Vincent. Goodbye.